Live from our studios in Tucson, Arizona. For the millions of fans listening around the world. From Long Realty with John Smith and Matt Bollinger. Let's get ready to talk real estate. Good afternoon. Welcome to Real Estate Rumble's emergency podcast. When I say it's an emergency, we need to get out the news, the positive news for once. I'm here with Matt Bollinger and Ryan Fitzgerald. Ryan is with Prosperity Mortgage. Matt's our numbers guy, so we're just going to let him take it over and have the conversation. What the heck happened today?
50-point cut by the Fed.
50 points?
50 basis points.
Okay, thank you.
0.5%.
0.5%.
0.5%, 50 basis point cut by the Fed.
How's that going to help me?
It already has. Mortgage rates have been going down the last 3 weeks or more. We're at probably over a year low on mortgage rates, 6.125, I'd say is the 30-year fix today. And that was based on the Fed making that cut. So mortgage rates were in anticipation of the Fed making that cut, and that's what they did.
Also spoke about potential cuts before the end of the year.
Yeah, that's kind of the new. That's kind of the new good information is they made a 50-point cut, which half the analysts out there projected quarter point, half of them 50 point. So it's the larger cut, but the bigger indication is that they're going to continue to cut. So there's 2 more meetings, probably another at least half a point cut between those 2 meetings through the rest of the year. So we could see on the mortgage side, we could see rates even still go down a little bit more.
And they think that the kind of lag effect of their rate, keeping rates higher, will continue to bring inflation down. What they were talking about was like 1.8% or something like that is what their anticipation is. Yeah. It'll start to climb up against from there, but they think they are going to achieve their
goal.
Their
2% goal. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Sorry for interrupting, but
You're good.
I know I said this was your show, but I'm just dying to talk.
I know.
Okay, I'm just dying.
Tell me something new.
Tell me, what's that going to save me for every dollar spent? Does that make sense? Does that question make sense?
I know that where rates have gone from where they started a year ago to now, that the average buyer will have about a $50,000 increase in their buying power.
Oh, okay. So it helps my buying power more than it does my long term.
That came courtesy of NAR.
Okay.
NAR stats. But it also helps you on things that aren't related to mortgage too, because the Fed rate will also have an effect on
credit
card rates, auto loan rates, and things like that. And I don't want anybody to think they're going to run out and their credit card rates are immediately going to go down by a big chunk, but it's an indication of where they're headed and where things will go. So
the hope is that it'll put a little bit more money in people's pockets, and on the real estate side, allow them to have a little bit more buying power than they did a year ago.
As you guys know, I believe everything I see on the internet.
Yes. That's good.
Okay. Including on how to write a book in less than a week. Anyway.
That's why we're here. So it's not just
I see a lot of things on the internet that people are comparing interest rates to COVID times, post-COVID times, where they were in their 3s, the 2s, and they're like, what do you like now, this or that, depending on what political party was in the office. We will never return to those interest rates, will we?
Can never say never, but I don't project. I think you didn't need another event like COVID to see rates go down that low again. I think with what we're seeing, most analysts would say something in the 5s. Maybe with how rates have gone down so quickly, maybe we could settle in the low 5s. But I don't see rates getting back into the 3s, low 3s and high 2s, which was what we saw during the height of COVID.
The 5s is still good money.
Yeah.
No, that puts a lot of people in a scenario where they could refinance. And I just saw that refi applications are up 24%.
It's probably
so
more
for everybody who's bought that for the last couple of years is probably in a situation, at least if not now, pretty soon, that they can kind of at least start investigating whether or not it's worth them doing.
Yeah, for sure. My refi applications are probably up 50% or more. Personally, and I have people. I have people who 6 months ago purchased, and it still makes sense now to look at refinancing.
Right.
So all the people we've sold houses to in the last couple of years, you're going to reach out and say, "Hey, this might be the time for you."
Yeah, it's definitely time to talk. I'm reaching out to them. My past clients, I would tell anybody who did buy in the last year and a half or less to reach out, give me a call for sure. But yeah, if you can see at least a point reduction in your interest rate, it's time to look at refinancing. If not, definitely do it.
So what would your advice be to somebody knowing that there's probably going to be further anticipated cuts in the Fed funds rate and how that might affect ultimately all rates, including mortgage? What's your advice there? Take advantage of it now because we don't know, or is it like you should wait a little bit and see what happens?
On the refi angle of things, you got to take advantage when the benefit's there. You don't want to, as I've said a couple times, you don't want to hit the refi too many times as the rates are coming down the hill.
Right.
So at this point, if you're getting more than a point, it would seriously consider it. If you can 1.5, I would do it now. If you're right around the point, you might want to wait a couple weeks, see what the post announcement kind of buzz is and see where rates are.
Because like we've talked about before, mortgages are typically forward looking in terms of what's going to happen. So you're going to see the adjustments sooner in the mortgage market than you're going to see elsewhere.
Yes.
Okay.
So you've already got it pre-baked in that there's going to be an adjustment.
So just on the announcement of a 0.5 point cut, we were already there with mortgage rates, and we've seen it come from, almost a full point down from 7.125 to 6.125. So we've already seen that. The announcement of the future cuts is what we'll see. What does that do, and how does that lead to it? So on the purchase side, I would say don't wait. Because if we do get into mid fives or get it even with a 5 in front of it, we've had the conversation several times, you're going to see more buyers.
And it's not just those announcements with the Fed cutting rates that affects mortgages, but it's also jobs reports, it's CPI reports, it's all those other things.
Numbers.
So you're looking at reports that come out almost weekly.
Yes.
And that's where that part of the market adjusts along the way to get ahead of it.
Yep. I mean, the Fed won't meet again until November, so we have a month break, but for that whole month, we'll, on a weekly basis, like you said, we'll see different reports from inflation numbers, housing numbers, all kinds of jobs numbers, all kinds of different reports that'll move the needle.
Yeah.
And
housing starts, permits, all that stuff. It's
all those things.
Anticipation of what that market or what the economy is going to be doing going forward. And that's what affects rates.
Yes. All that goes into it. All that goes into it. But the good news on the overall is rates, we don't think they'll go bouncing back up because there was the full 0.5 point cut.
Right.
And with the indications of further cuts through the end of the year, we'll probably see maybe even still more improvement.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the longest I've ever been quiet in my life. Just going on record.
Yep.
Do we have an inventory problem or do we have a rate problem now?
A little bit of both still, but mostly an inventory problem.
Because what's going to happen, in my eyes, just like what happened before, rates started dropping, prices started going up.
It's good. We got to see what happens with mortgage applications and see how much they increase, because it's how many buyers come into the market and how much does that stress the inventory.
To really impact inventory, rates would have to be lower than what they are now, because then you've got people that are willing to sell, and I mean people that are in low mortgages that are willing to sell and trade up to whatever they're going to buy. So you get a seller, then you get a buyer. I guess it's a wash, but at the end of the day, they're going to continue to build too, which usually takes the slack off the market. So I saw that housing permits were up.
Yep.
So all those things help.
Well, if I have a mortgage in the 3s, why would I trade it out for the one in the 5s?
Well,
because I need a house?
That's what we're trying to find.
Life's needs.
Yeah, we're trying to find that mark where the interest rate doesn't prevent the life change move that typically happens. Typically, a buyer buys a home, they're in it 5 years, getting close to the 7-year mark. They're starting to think, okay, my life's changed. My kids have grown. I'm getting a little older. Whatever the life change event is, I'm ready. Maybe I got a promotion. I'm ready to make that change. Well, the low rates, as Matt was just talking about, if you have 3.5% interest rate and you're looking at a 7.5% interest rate, you don't care what the life change event is, you make the house work.
And there's always going to be the people that are just going to make that decision anyway, because a third of the houses have no mortgage anyway. So their mortgage rate is 0.
Yeah.
They're not making any decisions based off of mortgage rates.
Yeah, but Usually the time those people have cash on hand and they are
Right.
some savvy buyers.
They are.
Okay.
But I think that a lot of times you'll find that those are people who the life changes that they have are maybe kids are grown and gone. They're empty nesters now. They don't need the big house. They're going to sell the big house and buy something smaller. They're still going to pay cash. But there are going to be houses that maybe are move up for that next buyer that come on the market in that scenario. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that go into it, and there's a lot of different moving parts. But I think at the end of the day, it's a positive for the real estate market.
All right, guys. So what I'm going to do next is I'm here on X, formerly known as Twitter, and I'm going to read a few tweets that talk about it. Okay. Nate Pintez says, the Fed cutting rates by 0.5% doesn't change the fundamental decisions about buying a home. Can you afford the monthly payment with everything PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, plus HOA fees if necessary? What's your response to that? Wait, are you going to be in this place for the next 5 years?
Well, I think that the buying power as rates go down becomes higher. It doesn't mean you have to spend it. So you have $50,000 more in buying power based off of rates coming down a full percentage point basically in the last year, right?
Yes.
So, it does put you in a situation where that has to be a decision, but I think that it allows you to buy more house for the same monthly payment.
Agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the basis of his statement is correct. I mean, we always have to analyze the affordability. Can they make the mortgage payment with all those factors included? But as Matt was saying, there's a difference between what you qualify for and what you budget-wise, a personal budget. But lower interest rates do give you more buying power. That's for sure.
Well, next one is from Ramp Capital. Now, I want you to imagine a college dorm room with garbage covered all over their coffee table, because this is their image. And this one dude, I'm pretty sure, has Cheerios stuck to his face. Okay?
There you
If you know anything about our previous episodes, you'd understand what I'm trying to say there. Bro, the Fed is cooked. They have no idea what they're doing. We either are going to stage inflation or another Great Depression. Good luck, LOL. That's why I put 95% of my net worth into Bitcoin. You should do.
The end of that.
Huge overreaction, but the end of that kind of tells you where they're coming from.
He had me up until Bitcoin.
Well, I think a lot of people think we were talking before. 0.5 point cut's a huge cut, and biggest one in recent memory. Yes, but if we haven't had any cut in, I can't remember exactly how long, but almost 2 years, a 0.5 point cut isn't necessarily as big anymore. I mean, yes, they didn't spread it out over the last couple meetings and do a 1/4 point or even less, 1/8 of a point, but I don't think it means we're cooked.
No, it's wrong.
Well, according to Doug Boneparth, pilot on my flight home just announced that the Fed cut the rates by 0.5%. Everyone started cheering, and the guy next to me said he's going to buy a rental property in Florida. We're back, baby.
I don't know that I would jump too far to that side either, but it is helpful. And I think that as far as real estate goes, and as far as people's personal pocketbooks or budgets go, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, overall, a general consumer is going to benefit from this cut.
Correct.
The extreme of a pilot announcing it on an airline seems pretty amazing to me. This cut and this Fed announcement has had more buildup just in our world of talking about it around the office and waiting for it than in recent memory. But I don't think it means anybody's going to run out and buy it. Just by half point is going to buy that rental property in Florida. So you were already buying it if you could, and if you can't, this improvement's not going to get you there.
Great. All right. Seven Henrich says September 18th, 2024, 50% rate cut. September 18th, 2007, 50% rate cut.
50%.
Point.
50 basis point.
Base point.
Yeah. Those were, I think, so it was talking about COVID time, and then it was talking
Pretty
about,
much,
and then it was talking about the
same day.
Housing market.
The housing market and I was working in it in 2007, 8, 9. We had an overabundance of vacant properties. We didn't have a limited supply, so that kind of pushed that. But the lending standards have changed so much that you're not having somebody going out and getting 10 mortgages. It just isn't going to happen. So it's a different thing that we're talking about right now.
You got to look at foreclosure statistics. If you want to analyze the Fed cut through those two time periods, analyze the foreclosure statistics through those two time periods, and they would be nowhere near each other. No. Foreclosures were rampant back in 2007. We're still near historic lows on foreclosures right now. So that those two don't match up. Yes, the Fed the Fed cut was the only one that matched
you could
up.
Get if you could fog a mirror, you could get a mortgage back then. Not the same thing anymore. There's a lot of stuff in place that would make sure that buyers are much more qualified now to get a mortgage.
Yeah, our interest rates going down doesn't change our qualification standards. To the first tweet that you read, we're still checking principal interest, homeowners insurance, HOA, can they qualify for that with their current debts? So none of that's changing.
All right, that's it for our tweet section, so I appreciate you guys doing that. So next question I have, it's one of my own. I have heard rumors of brokerages pulling together armies together for short sales that are anticipating hitting the market.
I actually got an email from a group that was trying to get agents together for their anticipation of these massive, rushes of foreclosures and short sales. And there are so many people sitting on so much equity that it would take a huge problem in the economy for people to get to a point where they were short selling their house. The majority of people.
Yeah, there's just no indications in the statistics that show that a rush on foreclosures and short sales is coming. Yeah, there's always some.
There always has been.
What was your split, man?
I didn't ask. I didn't respond.
I want to thank Ryan Fitzgerald for coming in on an emergency basis due to this great announcement. It seems like everybody's absolutely excited about it. The cool thing about Ryan is Prosperity Mortgage kind of already had it built in and was presenting these rates a little early for themselves. So, Ryan, again, we're going to make sure we put your information on the backside of our podcast to make sure that they know how to reach out to you if they have any questions. If you have any other financial questions, Matt and Ryan can work with you together and we'll get you there.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Real Estate Rumble. It's proudly produced and edited by Unestablished Media. If you're looking to start your own podcast or are in need of social media services, design work, or even website creation, check out our website at unestablishedmedia.com. Thanks.